Okay, so today we're talking about one of the most exciting IPOs that have happened so far here in 2020. And let me just say, certainly there's a lot of hype surrounding this one. And you guessed it, that's right, we're talking about Snowflake today. Ticker symbol SNOW. So I'm super excited for this one. So without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, so while I was doing research for this video, I came across this comment on one of the CNBC interviews that the CEO of Snowflake did. And I just gotta say, this one made me laugh very hard. Sometimes, man, YouTube comments, they're just absolutely hilarious. I can't even imagine how depressing my life would be if it wasn't for reading this comment. So, comments like these, YouTube, you guys just crack me up so hard sometimes. Anyways, first of all though, what is Snowflake? Well, Snowflake was founded in 2012 and it's a software as a service company that offers data analytics solutions for businesses, and it uses Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google's cloud platform to provide users with fast and easy analytical results. Okay, so if none of what I just said made sense, don't worry. So I'm going to explain it more and explain it a bit more simply. So imagine if you're a company that collects data, right? Large data sets about your customers, and you want to find a better way to just sort of serve your customers, or find something really specific, like why did my sales go down on any specific given day? Well, Snowflake is a tool that could potentially help you do that really fast. So I've actually had some experience with data analytical tools while I was working at Loblaw. So as some of the longtime viewers of this channel know, I used to work for Loblaw as a data scientist. I was a co-op job, so I was a co-op student, so I didn't do anything like super intense or anything. But I did do some things on the data analytics side. And at Loblaw, they didn't use Snowflake, but they did use software tools like Teradata, which is kind of similar. Again, it's been a while since I've done SQL and data analytics and that kind of stuff. So if I get something wrong, please correct me down in the comments if you're an expert in this field. So it's always possible that for me to get something wrong, right? No one's perfect. It has been a while. But anyways, I took a look at the propaganda video that Snowflake put out, and it just gives us an example of how snowflakes work in action. And basically in the video, they give this example of these rentable bicycles that you see on the street, and this was in New York. And basically it shows you the steps from the perspective if you were an analyst from the bike rental company and you wanted to know why ridership went down on some very few specific days. So it shows you that you can import a large data set that has like millions of rows in it, and Snowflake will give you back the results of your queries in pretty much real time. In this case, as it turns out, the weather was bad on those days. That was the reason why. At least that was the answer that they gave. Kind of an obvious answer. Although I think one of the dates they picked was February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. So my guess would have been that maybe ridership was down because other people were like going on dates and like Valentine's Day and they had plans. I guess that wasn't the right answer. What do I know, right? But somebody in the comments of that video pointed out, well, that didn't look very impressive. I could have just done the same thing and told you the same thing with just Excel. Well, keep in mind that we're dealing with data sets that have like millions of rows, right? So, maybe some data sets and some businesses use data sets that have even more than millions of rows. Maybe it'll exceed even 1 billion rows. So just imagine that you have an Excel file with millions and millions of rows, and just, good luck trying to take an average, just like really simple, right? Something really simple, trying to take an average on like an Excel sheet that has 1 million rows, it'll crash your computer for sure. So at Loblaw's, I dealt with data sheets that are like Excel sheets that are like not millions of rows, but they had thousands or tens of thousands of rows. And, even tens of thousands of rows is like too much for like a puny laptop to handle, right? So, if you have to do any types of calculations or analytics on it and you just have Excel and you're not allowed to use any tools, you're gonna have a bad time. Like, just straight up, you're gonna have a bad time. Your computer's gonna crash and you're gonna be like, yo bro, I'm just straight up not having a good time right now. Okay, so that's what Snowflake does, but let's look at it from a financial and investment perspective, since the topic of this video is on the IPO and on the stock itself. I can tell you that the company is putting up some absolutely insane numbers in terms of growth. So Snowflake has increased their revenue over 120% year over year. Now they do the quarters a little weird. These are fiscal quarters and not calendar quarters, which is why you see Q2 of 2021 down there, when in fact it's more like Q2 of 2020. So, it's the 3 months ending July 31st, 2020. So, don't worry, they don't have a time machine or anything. It's a little weird. Anyways, moving on to the financials, we can see that looking at the actual numbers of the revenue, right here we have data for the trailing 6 months ending July 31st. And on the left, we have the full year. So the full 12 months worth of data ending January 31st, 2020. And you can see that Snowflake in just the trailing 6 months ended July 31st, 2020 has made almost as much revenue as the trailing 12 months ending July 31st, 2020. Now, by this time the current fiscal year finishes, which would be around January 31st of 2021, you should expect that revenue to be an absolutely huge number compared to what it is now, assuming that they continue to grow at such breakneck pace. Also, looking at the operating income, you can see that their operating loss has not skyrocketed the same way that their revenues did, which is a really good sign. This is what we want to see. So to me, it's not surprising that they're growing so fast, because I do think that the field of data analytics is just, data is the new oil, right? The field of data analytics is just going to grow bigger and bigger in the future. It's not going to get any smaller, I can guarantee you that. And if you need verification of this fact, you can just look at how much random companies are willing to pay for data engineers. So I went on glassdoor.ca, and in case you don't know what that is, it's basically a website that pulls like salary data and job data and like interview stuff like that. So yeah, I went on Glassdoor, and you don't even have to go to Silicon Valley, right? Just search up jobs near where you live, which in my case would be Toronto, which is the biggest city near me. And I can tell you that jobs like these, like data analysts and stuff like that, they start easily at like 90 to 100K a year, maybe even more if you're good, right? And this is just Canada. This is just Toronto. Imagine if you actually went to like Silicon Valley or something. I know a lot of companies are hiring specifically for Snowflake engineers. So, you can probably learn Snowflake within a matter of like less than a year and get pretty good at it. And then if you're willing to put in the time and the effort, you might be able to get a job that pays like, 100K a year or something like that, right? So, the demand is definitely there, and the money is definitely there to for a company like Snowflake to continue to keep growing. And fun fact, both Salesforce and Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway has both agreed to plow $250 million each into Snowflake. As well, Berkshire has agreed to buy another 4 million Class A shares from former Snowflake CEO Robert Muglia in a secondary transaction, paying the IPO price for each share. I just think it's kind of out of character for Warren Buffett to buy into an IPO stock. Certainly, he's not known for buying IPO stocks, and certainly he's not known for buying tech companies that are not named Apple. So I think it's kind of out of character for Buffett to be buying Snowflake. So in order to convince Buffett to buy Snowflake, this company has got to be doing some absolutely amazing things. And looking at the numbers, they are absolutely doing something amazing, because their revenue growth is just through the roof, right? So, I think that Buffett himself or one of his deputies really believe in the long-term prospects of Snowflake. So, I should mention that originally this stock was set to IPO at around $75 to $85 per share. Now, the demand for this stock was so high that they actually increased it above 100, and then it actually ended up IPOing at $120 per share. And, by the time it opened to the public and people like you and me were allowed to buy it, well, holy smokes, guys. Let me just show you a chart of it right now, and you can see, this is what it closed at today, right? I think one point people were paying over like $300 a share at one point. Absolutely insanity. It just essentially doubled from the price that they IPO'd at, which, keep in mind, they already increased dramatically. So now comes a big question. Did I buy the stock? And my answer to that is no, I did not. So let me explain, okay? So, I understand the hype surrounding this company, and I understand how it's a crazy growth company, as I've just mentioned. But, this stock is just out of my league right now, okay? So it's just absolutely too hot for me to touch. And I know Warren Buffett bought it, but obviously he paid a much lower price than people like you and me can pay. He obviously paid much less than like $200-300 a share. And another reason why I didn't buy it is that I do think that there might be opportunities to pick up this stock at a much cheaper price later down the line when the hype kind of dies down and when the share lockup period expires. So looking at the S1, which is a form that any company has to file with the SEC when they go public, we can see that there's going to be share lockup periods that will expire sometime around like late November, early December-ish. So let me read you a part of what the S1 says. All right, so beginning on the 91st day after the date of this prospectus, are current employees with a title below vice president, and current contractors, former employees other than Robert Mugalia, our former chief executive officer and his affiliates, and former contractors may sell a number of shares equal to 25% of their vested holdings. And you guys feel free to pause the video and read the rest. I'm not going to bore you guys by reading through all of them, but essentially it's okay if you didn't understand what any of that meant, by the way. The gist of it is, it's standard practice for a stock to have a lockup period right after its IPO, right? So a lockup period is basically this rule that says that insiders, like employees of the company or higher management, cannot sell their shares, right? So it's to like prevent the company's management for just like dumping the shares as soon as the IPO and taking advantage of the skyrocketing price, right? But eventually the period will expire and insiders will be allowed to sell. Now this dilutes the market, obviously, because if you think about it, it's like if you run a burger place, right? And then a McDonald's opens right across the street. Well, now the supply of burgers is just going to go through the roof, and you might have to lower your price to, you know, get the same amount of customers. Now, granted, not all insiders will sell. Obviously, some people will hold on to their shares. But there will be some dilution at least. So I'm not saying that there will be massive dilution, but there will at least be some dilution. And when that dilution comes, it'll put downwards pressure on the stock, obviously. Right now, at least $250 a share, that's incredibly rich, and I just can't touch it, even though I want to. So anyways, that's my opinion on Snowflake right now. I'll be watching this one very closely. So I'll leave the video here. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you like this series. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'll leave the links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.